Good morning, YouTube. Thank you once again for tuning in. I am Dkhairho, and you are now watching The Morning Coffee.
The morning coffee.
Yo,
What up, bro?
not much. What's up?
Nothing. Hey, so you got a chance to see that stuff I sent you, right?
Yeah, you don't have to see graphics, bro.
Hey, man, you already know how I roll. But check this. So check this out. So what I want to do, and I'm not even gonna keep you long. So I got this. So that's the mix that I'm currently working on now, right? What I want to know from my perspective, let's say from a guy like me who does everything, I play by ear, and then I make my adjustments, especially in a mix, most of the time off of sight. Back in the day, I was taught it can peak in the orange, but it can't stay in the orange when you're doing your levels. And we always talk in TMR about like the dBs, decibels, and all of that kind of stuff. And I laugh about it, but it's something that I feel at some point, especially in mixing, is very important. Now, I'm not gonna say that I don't know it. I will tell you that I don't know how to explain it, meaning that when it comes to me mixing, I know how to get my levels adjusted. I know how to pan to the right and left. I know how to add effects and everything. But I feel that even before you go to adding effects, there are certain elements that you have to look for in tweaking. And one of them is now I'm starting to hear that it's better to mix in mono and versus in stereo, because it puts everything directly in your face, which we know. But I mean, what is your approach when you go into a mix, bro? And like I said, it's just something that I want to understand from your perspective because hashtag DJ Blunt, this is what you do. You get what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Well, I'm gonna touch on that mono thing in a minute. Very first thing, and you're right, is your balancing. Before you do anything, the EQ, anything like that, you want to make sure that your sounds are balanced.
Right.
And the easiest way, well, I'm not going to say the easy way, but the best approach would be stage gaining. And what stage gaining is just ensuring that the levels that's coming in are not clipping or going above 0 dB.
Right.
And the way you do, and the practice of that is to leave your faders at 0 dB, what's called unity. Leave them there and to turn down your gain. Every DAW should have a gain knob.
Right.
It's like a separate volume knob almost.
Right.
And you want to bring your gain for each track. You want to bring it down to between a -18 and a -20, because what this does, this gives you headroom. And you need the headroom so you can mix, because when you start adding your EQ and your compression and all your other inserts, that's going to eat up your headroom. So you got to create headroom from the beginning before you start mixing.
Okay. So
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, so my thing is, so you saw what I sent you. So the levels that I have, because some are at 0 and then some are below 0. So, and this is just what I've always done. Like I only use gain for if I wanted more, output on certain sounds that may have that I didn't choose to normalize, right? But you're telling me 0 straight across the faders and just do everything through the gain.
In the very beginning.
Okay, in the beginning. Got you. Okay.
In the very beginning. And even with that, if you're working with MIDI, which most of us are,
right,
then you should check it from the source. If you got a VSTI that's come in, and let's just say for instance it's a kick drum, and we all know we want that kick to hit. Well, if the kick is causing your track and your DAW to go red, don't turn down the fader or even the gain in the kick. Turn it down in the plug-in first. and see how it sounds. If it doesn't sound right, okay, then leave it where it is, and then turn down the stage gain.
Gotcha.
That's just I guess not a trick, but a way to start off with mixing, because what happens if you have like for some people they don't have numbers on their faders and their DAWs, and some do.
Right.
Well, when you look at your DAW, it should be in increments of 6, going down to the bottom. It should be 0, 6, 12, 18, 24, so on and so forth.
Okay, it's a little bit different, but the idea is there. I get it. Okay,
well, if you look at the lines,
right,
the further down you go, the closer they are.
Right,
but if you look at it from 0 to 6, you'll see how long of a distance that is.
Right. Gotcha.
That's a lot more control to have than it is to bring your fader down and then try to bring it back up and balance it that way.
Right. So now are you mixing with headphones on and using the monitors, or are you doing with headphones? Like, in other words, how do you know your sound outputs? Because do you want it close on your ear, or you want the let's say the panoramic idea of the sound, depending on your room?
I mix with both.
Got you.
Yeah, it depends on the room. I mix with both. Like right now, I don't have any of my gear. It's all stored, so I'm using headphones, and I use some Avatone Pro MP1s, and then I use some basic earbuds because that's what most people listen with anyway. Is earbuds.
Right.
So I go back and forth with both.
Okay, so now,
but
go ahead.
But if I was in my element, I would much rather mix with my monitors.
Okay, here's something that I've gotten into the idea of using now, like side chaining, using bus tracks, especially for my effects, and more so because I'm in DAWs, and you know how you want to kind of take off some of the stress on the computer, because again, I learned everything, of course, in the analog world, so getting into computer software is a lot different. But just on this SSL board alone, like all the features that it has, I'll be honest with you and let you know that I don't use all the features, even though I know that they're very useful, especially when each sound, the control that you have on mixing or EQing each sound, like the idea of dynamics, the idea of the EQ, and how you seeing your effect sends and all of that kind of stuff. Like the process of mixing, like you said, you got to get your gain right in the beginning. But when do you know that you have to, let's say, put certain effects, especially through the graphic effect, because that's what I'm starting to use now. Like I say, I just did everything off of ear, just what sounded good, especially because I'm a hip hop head, so of course stuff can sound dirty, but I know that there's still quality needed in that. Like what steps are recommended for someone who says, okay, I get that everything can't just be how I want it or the easy route out. Like what is your process going in? Like you said, you go through the game, but what are your steps after that?
Right. Good question. The very first thing after the game is filtering.
Okay.
And some people call it high pass filtering. Some people call it low cut filtering.
Right.
Basically, what it is just taking a filter sweep, starting from the low end and cutting out the low end. And you want to do that for most of your instruments, with the exception of your kick and your bass.
Really? Now why?
Because those are your low end instruments. You get what I'm saying? You don't want. Okay, for instance,
because you don't want them to get lost in the sound. Like I get it. Because you're gonna bring them down the lowest, right? Is that right?
Okay, you're gonna do what?
You're gonna bring the levels of those down the lowest, like you said, like the instruments, because they have to go with other instruments, or like why?
No, not the actual volume level. Okay.
No, I'm saying when you take low pass out, that means you taking out the bottom end of the sound. You're thinning it out pretty much.
Right. Yeah, but here's the thing. You don't want to thin it out. You just want to cut out unnecessary energy. That's all you're doing. You're just cutting out unnecessary energy. And one way to do that, and I don't like giving this method because a lot of people mix with their eyes and not with their ears.
You're talking about me, but I'm your bro. You love me. 100.
Yeah. For instance, like the Fab Filter Pro EQ, because it's a graphic EQ, and you get to see how the sound is shaped.
Right.
Well, if you have a hi-hat,
okay,
or a cymbal, and let's stick with the hi-hat, and the frequency range, the main frequency range of that hi-hat is above 1,000 hertz. There's no need to have frequencies being played or heard below 1,000 hertz or below 750 hertz. That's unnecessary. It's wasting space. It's wasting energy because if you look at the graph, you'll have some elements of that hi-hat rumbling in the lower end, and it's not necessary. And it's the lower end that takes up most of your headroom. That's why you want to filter, because you want to have enough headroom for your mix. You want to have enough headroom so when you do add in your kick, you do add in your bass, you're not clipping.
Got you.
And understanding where your instrument's sounds live on a frequency range is best knowledge. Knowing that your kick, even though the human ear can supposedly hear between 20 and 20K hertz, knowing that your kick is going to live in between the 35 hertz at the low end all the way up to 100 hertz to the higher end, knowing that is good business. Knowing that if you have a sub like an 808 and you want it to rattle at 40 hertz, between 40 and 60 hertz, then your bass should be a little bit above that, so they don't fight each other. Because if you have your bass and your kick fighting each other,
right,
then you're gonna have cancellation.
So let me pause you right quick, because this is some key information, but I can tell you for a fact, I'm gonna speak for myself. I can tell you for a fact, one of the reasons that everything that you have like relayed to me, all the numbers and all of that stuff, even though I tease you about it, like it's very useful and critical, but these are one of the things that scare a lot of, let's say, people who mix music, like myself, let's say home studio especially. Like these are some of the reasons that we say we don't want to learn how to mix, or we just gonna do it our way, because there is a lot, like what you're saying as far as thinning out, taking out low end. I do these things just out of natural, because again, I know how to play with the sound, but I always took it for granted that I was actually doing something that was good. Like as you saying it, I'm like, oh, I've always stand out certain sounds to make everything fit together. But I didn't know, you know how you know how to do something, but you don't know how to really explain what you're doing. And so hearing you say it, like I'm following you all the way, and I'm like, oh damn, I always done that. But I didn't know that I was actually doing something that made sense. You follow what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Now, because you said a statement, you keep saying thinning out sound, and I don't want you to get into that phrase, because if you actually thin out your sound,
okay,
it's going to make it sound thin.
Right.
You want to filter your sound.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong.
I get
understand your approach with your audience, because you want to keep the layman's terms, and I get that. However, when it comes to learning about mixing, there are going to be some terms and some mixing terms that you're going to need to know. So when you go research for stuff and you don't know the terms, you're going to have a harder time looking for the answer that you're searching for. Right.
Got you. It makes sense.
So, and I knew that coming into this conversation, I was like, so how am I going to approach that? It comes to the point where you gotta accept the fact that some terms you need to know. That's
you gotta know.
Any other job, you can't. A mechanic came to say, "Hey, give me a thingamajob," and he's talking about a screwdriver or a wrench or whatever.
Right. And I'm the same way with graphic design. Like you got to talk to me technically in graphics, because if not, I'm not gonna give you what you want. So I totally get it. It makes sense.
So now with the filtering, what you want to do, and here's the trick: you want to sweep out that. You want to sweep all the way the entire time. You want to sweep the frequency to the point where you hear the sound change, and then you want to back it up just a little bit.
Okay.
Then that way, you know you're right at that point where you didn't cut everything that's unnecessary, but you still kept the integrity of that sound.
Got you. Wow.
Because if you filter too much, one, you're gonna thin out the sound. Two, you're gonna change the sound. You may even change the pitch.
So then you one of those cats that will actually get on a mixing console and use every damn button.
If need be. Yeah, everything doesn't need to be. Everything doesn't need to be affected.
Right, and I'm thinking in today's age, let's say like we always talk about expansion packs, or we always talk about like even the sounds that come with DAWs. A lot of them already have the effects or the filtration that it may need, but again, there are times when we still want to go back and make adjustments to what's always there. But based on what you're saying, I'm looking at this damn console and I'm like, dude probably touches every damn button.
Yeah, starting with the very top button. That's where your filtering is. Because you're talking about an SSL board.
Yeah.
The very first 2 or 3 knobs is your filtering, and you want to use that low cutoff. And the symbol should be a straight. It should like the old school division sign.
Let me see.
You know what I'm talking about?
And it's called what?
I don't know. I don't work with Reason.
Right.
But I know on an SSL board, some of them they'll have the actual symbol. Some of them just be numbers. Depending on the DAW. But basically, if it's got the lower numbers, you just want to turn that knob clockwise or counterclockwise.
Right.
You just want to filter that sound. Again, it's about mixing with your ears, not with your eyes.
Right. See, and that's the thing. I do it off the. I make, because you know I'm not an actual instrument player, but I can play well off of ear. And then when it comes to mixing, I do mix off my eyes. You know, like I said, because I'm looking at the levels. That's important to me as far as especially what comes out of the main, you know, the main out. But like I said,
the only thing you should be paying attention to, the only thing you should be paying attention to with your eyes, yeah, you're right, are the levels, not the sound. You know, you can't listen to sound. You can't.
Right, you can't.
See,
right, you can't see sound. Right.
You can see sound graphically displayed, but you can't hear sound with your eyes.
Right. No, I get it. And I think that's one of the key things. Like I said, I know for a fact that I'm not far off as far as what mixing does. It's just the understanding that I would need to knowing exactly what I'm doing. Like, okay, if I tweak this button, it sounds good, but this is how I'm actually manipulating it. Where on certain speakers, like you say, sometimes you go from headphones, you go from monitors, or you go from earbuds. Like, you have to make sure that the frequencies are able to be served well in each of those outlets, because sometimes you may have something that's so piercing that it can be deafening in, let's say, some earbuds because they're closer inside your ear, you know, versus monitors that are coming out. And those are the things that I'm learning. Just like with bass, I'm starting to learn that bass is real important, you know, and things like that, or certain effects have to be in timing with the song. I never even thought of that, but DAWs do it for you. But let's say back in the day, I wasn't really paying attention to certain effects having to be in timing, you know. So those are the things. Like I said, it's I'm learning that everything can't just be because I want it to be that way. Like, there has to be some level of understanding.
I can understand with like your reverb and your delay.
Right.
Yeah, you want to calculate that.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be saying that's the thing. So that's a big. So in other words, it's a math equation in me making music. Now I can tell you with reverb, I can tell you with that effect, it has to flow out with the song, which I know how to quote unquote put it in spacing just so it sound good to me. But I'm sure somebody like you will come in and say, hey, it's not on the 1/8, the song is on the 1/8, or you get what I'm saying, or the 1/16 or whatever, or triplet. Like, those things really matter. And this is something, like I said, that I wanted to point out for myself. Yes, I'm doing the video for my viewers, but even more so for me, because for so many years I just done it, and people be like, oh man, yeah, that's a good mix. What did you do? And I'm like, shit, I just turned this button right here. You know?
Right.
And it's just a matter of me just like I said, some things, like I said, it's better to be honest about the process and not always sound like you know everything, because I don't. No matter how long I've been making music, there's always things to learn, and because of the fact that I've always been able to send my stuff to other people to have them mix it, but now I got all of these dang tools, why not use them? You know what I mean? And but if you're going to use them, you also have to understand them. And so that's why I wanted to come to you, because like I said, in the group we always talk about those things as far as mixing goes. Like, you take it to heart. Mixing is important to you, you know. And so that's where I'm at with that, man. So it's crazy, man. Like, because
the mixing part, it determines, that's going to determine how everything comes together, how everything sounds. The production part, that's the creative aspect. That's where you have your fun at. Mixing, I mean, you can have fun mixing, don't get me wrong, but that's going to be that point where, you know, how good is it going to sound? Are you going to mess up your production? Because you might have this banger, but if you mix it wrong, you know, it's going to sound like trash. It can be muddy, it can be thin, it can be too boomy. You know, that's why it kind of killed me when I see or read or hear people talk about, you know, they're going to mix and master.
Oh yeah, that's impossible. That I know. So then let me ask you another question then. Why do I want everything down center in mono versus left, right, and stereo when I'm doing the mix?
Well, that's the thing with the mono. You're gonna go back and forth with that. Okay, it's not that you're just gonna mix in mono.
Okay.
You're gonna go back and forth between mono and stereo, because with mixing the mono, that really is gonna play a factor with your panning. And
right.
When you send, because you can't have everything.
Oh, you wanna pan in mono versus panning in stereo? You want to pan in stereo. You can't pan, and you cannot right.
pan.
Okay, that's what
mono.
I'm saying. Yeah. Okay. So okay, I just want to make sure I'm clear. Yeah, because I do pan in stereo, because that's going. I get it. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you got to pan in stereo, but what's going to happen is when you go back to mono, then that's going to give you a reference as to how it's going to sound coming through, say, a computer speaker. You know, a lot of laptops just have one speaker. They don't have two speakers. Or it's also going to give you a sense of balance.
Okay.
Of how loud or how soft the sound is. So when you go back to stereo and everything opens up, it's going to be like, oh.
Right.
You know, or it could be too much. You're like, okay, I need to bring this down. I need to turn this up. I need to, you know, change this. Do your subtle mixes, changes. You got to press the buttons. You got to push some buttons and turn some knobs and move some fadas. It ain't gonna work magically. You know, you got to do something.
Right.
Yeah, mixing the mono is basically just a reference to the stereo as far as how it's balanced.
Got you. Dude, man.
In a layman's term.
It's this is it's really eye opening for me. Like I said, I especially since I got this Nectar P1, I'm trying to be more hands on with this mixing console, and in turn, by me being hands on with it, I need to actually understand what I'm doing, because a lot of times I do everything just from my my basic screens as to, just knob adjustments and stuff like that within the different modules. But I'm understanding, especially after hearing you talk a lot, I'm understanding that there is more to the game. And like I said, I know for a fact I'm not far off, but I don't know, like I couldn't explain it to someone. If the question was posed to me, and it's only because, you know how you get set in your old ways, or you get set in doing things a certain way. So you'd be like, no, man, just back up. Just let me do it. Just let me do it, and I'll get it to sound right. But that's not what they're looking to do. They're like, show me how you did it so I'll know where I don't have to call you anymore. You know what I mean? And it doesn't take you out the equation. It just gives them a better understanding. So even if they have to come back to you, you can kind of pick up where they left off, if that makes sense. You get what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Now, with what I said earlier, you got to take that with a grain of salt, because some people will say, no, I don't work like that. Like with the stage game. The guy that helped me with mixing,
Okay.
he does a stage game. You know, he does a stage game. He does everything from the fader. So I'm saying that to say that there's more than one way to achieve the same effect.
Right. Got you. So it's just by preference.
I use stage gaining so I can have better control with my faders.
Got you. Well,
I use filtering as my next stage so I can create headroom. Then I'll use subtractive, or some people call it reductive EQing, to take out all the nasty sounds from certain instruments.
okay.
Then I'll compress if necessary, and then I'll take additive EQ to bring back some color.
Right. Got
to the
you.
equation. What's up for some of those now? And that's just first stage. You still got mixed buses and all this other stuff, like you said, your inserts and your effects and dynamics. So yeah, it's just, but you have to do things in stages.
And I don't want you to give them none of your favorite EQs and all of that stuff that you use, like that's outside, because that's what I'm gonna be expecting from your videos when you start doing them. But just like I said,
to be honest, man, if I'm not using the, because I use waves.
Okay.
You know, that's not a secret. I use waves, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll take separate individual VSTs and create the same type of chain that a waves SSL mix strip has. So the very first one is going to be your EQ or your filtering.
Okay.
Then your compressor. And then your insert for the reverb or your delay or whatever.
Right.
So I'm still using the same thing. I'm just using different plugins because they may provide me a better sense of sound, or not to step on my own tongue about mixing with my eyes, but I like the fact that I can look at the graphic display from FabFilter and see where my cutoff is. I'm still using my ears, but I can see where my cutoff is, though.
Right.
And I can see where I can see, how much of this low end that I'm cutting off, or even the high end as well.
Gotcha.
So it's a balance, man.
So one thing before I let you go, explain to me the idea of side chaining. What's the major benefit of side chaining?
Loudness. That's the major benefit, because what you're going to do is, one, you're going to be able to maintain the original sound. Say for instance, you got your kick,
right? And
basically, what you're going to do is you're going to copy that kick,
right?
So you're going to have two tracks. You're going to have two tracks of the same kick,
right?
One is going to be unaffected, and the other is going to be affected. And that's what side chaining is. You're going to keep the integrity of the original kick, but then you're going to compress the other one to give it maybe a little bit more punch.
I'm laughing because I used to call that I'm gonna double this kick and I'm gonna just put the effect on this one. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just did. That's what I called it, but that's what it was, and it wasn't until somebody said. So I think I was in one of the forums or something, and somebody say, "Man, I'm trying to figure out how to side chain, huh?"
Wait a minute. I think I just actually described what's called parallel.
Right, that's parallel. Okay, actually. Okay, parallel compression.
Yeah, side chaining is. I'm sorry. Side chaining is when you want to take one instrument and have it affect another one. My apologies.
So like,
for instance, let's say you have your bass and your kick. Okay, and let's say that your kick is not coming through the way you want it to.
Okay.
So what you would do, you would side chain it. So what would happen is you would have it so every time the kick hits, your bass will drop a little bit to let that kick come through.
So it doesn't distort a clip.
That's side chain. I'm sorry, I had described parallel EQ.
No, it's good. I wouldn't have known anyway. I wouldn't have known the difference anyway. So check it out. So it makes sense. Just so your bass and your kick just doesn't lose the idea of what each one is, because there are some times where the kick will distort the bass, or the bass will distort the kick, depending on how much bottom. So like me, what I'll do, let's say if I got a heavy bass line, then I'll use like a 909 tight, like a tight 909 type of kick. But there is a way to have two bottom ends going at the same time, right?
Yeah, and that's where your side chaining come in.
Gotcha.
Perfect example where you can actually hear side chaining happening is in like dance music or EDM or something like that.
Okay.
Where it's called a pumping effect. Where let's say if you have this fifth line, it is like it's one straight line, it's like
right.
But when you add the side chain of the kick, it sounds like it's pulsing. And every time where it's quiet, that's where the kick is coming in.
Got you.
That's a perfect example as far as side chaining the kick and the sound. However, that's an effect on purpose. When you're side chaining, for example, your bass and your kick, you really don't want that side chain to be that noticeable, unless that's the effect that you're going for.
Got you.
Especially in rap and hip hop, you just want that kick to shine through, but you still want your bass line to be heard. You don't want it to be so obvious that your bass sound and drop to let that kick come through. There's a fine line. There's a fine balance between there, to where it's subtle. Otherwise, you're gonna have what's called a pumping effect, where
gotcha.
your bass is gonna drop so low in volume to allow that kick to punch through, and that may not be the style or the sound that you're going for. You just want that kick to come through just clear enough to drop the bass, but still have the bass loud enough to where it doesn't, what's the word, psychoacoustically be heard.
Man, that's what's up, man.
You can play tricks with the ears, and you know what I'm saying? Where your brain and your ears are tied together, make you hear certain things or not hear certain things that's there.
Well, man, listen. I appreciate the time, man. I feel like I'm sitting in class, but it's dope.
I go on for hours.
No, I know, but it's dope information. But like I said, hopefully you could get your channel fully up as far as the mixing part of it goes, because I think it's gonna be useful to a lot of people, especially to see it done. Like what I'm gonna do with what you said, I'm gonna go back and try it. Of course, I'm gonna have to watch my own video again and practice while the video is playing. But like I said, I just wanted to hear from someone educated in the game, where they can talk to someone that's, just do it because they do it, and kind of give us a different understanding and idea of why certain things are more important than others, or why certain things have to be structured a certain way in the mix. So of course, the video is just based off of what I'm looking to hear. But again, once you do your channel, I know that you will have step by step. This is why you do this. This is why you do that. But hopefully, like I said, it was enough to give people the idea of why everything is not always okay as far as taking the easy route out, because sometimes the longer route is going to give you the best end result. So that's what's up, bro. But yeah, I'm finna go in here and start preparing my Valentine's Day dinner for the wife.
Right.
Steak and shrimp tonight, bro.
And one last thing.
Yes, sir.
Louder ain't better.
Because of distortion, right? And distortion and clipping.
Yep.
Got you. That I know.
That's just the beginning. That's just the beginning. When you post a loud ass track on a SoundCloud or Spotify and your volume get dropped, like, what happened to my sound?
Right. Got you.
You gonna learn today.
Well, that's what's up, man. So yeah, everybody got to start looking out for DJ B.L.U.N.T soon, right? Yeah, that's what's up. All right, bro. I'll hit you. All right, I'll see you in the group.
All right, bro.
All right, 100. Yes, sir. Now that was some good coffee. If you enjoyed this video, come on, cruise around the channel, check out some more. And just as always, subscribe to your boy, man. I'm loving the comments. I'm loving the views. I'm loving the subscribers. But most of all, I'm loving the feedback and respect given on this channel. I am Dkhairho. Plug in, get connected. We are TMR.
Dkhairho did this.